Vamagyanatimirandasya Gyananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan Ki Jai. Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani Ki Jai. Shri Gaura Nitai Ki Jai. Samaveda Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Jai Nitai Gaur Pramanande Hari Hari Bo Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Sorry for the delay. Actually, all the brahmacharis, they have gone to India. So couldn't share the services with everyone, or rather anyone, last minute. Before we get started, I just want to take this opportunity to thank all the devotees who helped organize beautiful Snayatra festival. Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani Ki Jai. So the decoration team, Vrindavana Palini Mataji's team, Jyotirmay Mataji's team doing garlands, one and only Prem Sagar Prabhu doing prasadam. So this is something we always encourage devotees to do, because now Lord Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani, they are in their transcendental sickness period. We encourage devotees to bring get well soon cards for them. You can offer lemon, ginger, honey, any nuts. That's the diet, special diet which Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani, they follow. Of course, in addition to the other kingly bhog offerings. So this is the extras we actually offer. So it's a good opportunity to render some personal service to the Lord. I also want to thank all the sponsors also for every festival. Devotees are already inquiring about Janmashtami, Radhashtami. So we'll publish the details hopefully late next month or mid of next month actually. Okay, so Ramachandra Puri criticizes the Lord. This is Sri Caitanya Caritamrta, Antya Leela, chapter 8. So we saw Madhavendra Puri. It's mentioned in text 18. Formerly, when Madhavendra Puri was at the last stage of his life, Ramachandra Puri came to where he was staying. So Madhavendra Puri, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's spiritual master is Ishwara Puri. Ishwara Puri's guru is Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri had both of them as disciples. One is Ishwara Puri and second is Ramachandra Puri. In Madhavendra Puri's case, when he was in last stage of life, he was chanting the holy name of Krishna. And sometimes he would cry, "Oh my Lord, I did not get shelter at Mathura." So this has been his prayer. Puri Gosani Kare Krishna Nama Sankirtana Madhurana Painu Bali Karena Krandana. Then Ramachandra Puri was so foolish that he fearlessly dared to instruct his spiritual master. Now that's dangerous. Prabhupada says in Caitanya Caritamrta, Madhya Leela, we read that one should never go too close to spiritual master or to the deities, because it's very easy to offend greater personalities. So deity seva also one should not go too close. Otherwise, one may start to see even any apparent faults even in the way how the deities look. Sometimes you would see devotees innocently mention about that, about some temple somewhere, this is how they are. They all are offensive. We should never be going too close to the deities. We should maintain the distance, safe distance, and we should worship them. Unless we get that adhikar, we can never go closer, that close. Same is with the spiritual master also. It's very easy, especially if somebody is very close day in and day out when they are serving, it's very easy for them to treat them as an ordinary personality. Once in a while, if you see your spiritual master, it's easy to maintain that level of respect. But if you are with your spiritual master day in and day out, familiarity breeds contempt, Prabhupada says. So in Ramachandra Puri's case, that's what happened. Madhavendra Puri's disciple is Ramachandra Puri, but he was serving. He is one of his personal servants. So at that time, he unfortunately cultivated that familiarity. Because of that, contempt came. And so now he is offending his spiritual master himself. So he is telling to Madhavendra Puri, if you are in full transcendental bliss, he said, you should now remember only Brahman. Why are you crying? Look at the advice he gives to his spiritual master. Hearing this instruction, Madhavendra Puri, greatly angry, rebuked him by saying, get out, you sinful rascal. Shuni Madhavendra mane krodha upajila dura dura papista bali. Papista means sinful person. Dura dura means, please get out of my sight. O my Lord Krishna, I could not reach you, nor could I reach your abode, Mathura. I am dying in my unhappiness, and now this rascal has come to give me more pain. You will see similar mood, extreme humble mood. Now Madhavendra Puri is no ordinary personality. Gopinath stole a pot of kheer for him. Gopal came to him face to face, giving him milk. Gopal comes to his dream, giving him instructions that he is feeling very cold, he needs sandalwood. Gopal comes again in his dream telling, whatever sandalwood you have actually got, you just give it there. You don't need to bring it here. You give it in Ramuna. So this is Madhavendra Puri. In our whole Gaudiya Vaishnavism, three personalities are mentioned to have exhibited Mahabhav. One is Lord Sri Krishna himself as Sri Krishna Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Second is Srimati Radharani, and third is Madhavendra Puri. If you put a devotee and if you mention a devotee's name in the same breath as Srimati Radharani and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we should understand their position. How exalted their position is. And it is said from Madhavendra Puri, the Madhurya Rasa was introduced in our parampara more prominently. It's given like that. So he's a very, very prominent acharya, very, very important acharya. As they say, like a trendsetter. He's the trendsetter, so to speak, in that sense, for our whole parampara. So this is his position. But in his mood, humble mood, he's saying, oh my Lord, I didn't reach you. Oh my Lord, I couldn't come to Mathura. But actually it's not true. He was there in Vrindavan, serving the Supreme Lord for so many years. He was actually traversing, crisscrossing India in the service of the Supreme Lord for so many years. In the process, he initiated so many disciples. Advaita Acharya. According to some sources, even Nityananda Prabhu, he took a shelter. Ishwara Puri. So many great personalities. When Gaura Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, who is the spiritual master of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when he left his body, at that time he had told whoever who was present there that I am a very sinful person. So after I leave this body, please tie it in rope and drag it along the streets of Navadvip Dham. So this is the instruction he gave. And by the time Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur could arrive at the location, some unscrupulous men, they have actually started to tie his limbs to a rope, ready to drag it. At that time, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comes and he chastises everyone, roaring like a lion, telling them that he is a pure Vaishnava, personal associate of Shri Radha Krishna. When he said something like that, he is just expressing his extreme humility. But we should not take it in a literal sense, understanding his position. And then he says, who among you would actually dare to even touch such a soul, let alone attempting to drag his body? And he says, I am the only disciple. And the reason why those men, they were wanting to take it was because they were thinking, everyone knew about the exalted nature of Gaura Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. Everyone was thinking that as a money-making avenue. If they somehow build a samadhi for his body in their own mata, then that will bring a lot of revenue. That's what they were thinking. So then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he chastised them. And he tells them, I'm the only disciple of my Gurudev. My Gurudev didn't initiate anyone else. So Bhakti Vinod Thakur asks Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur to go and take initiation from Gaura Kishodas Babaji Maharaj. So when Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur goes to Gaura Kishodas Babaji Maharaj, who was apparently an illiterate, he said, oh, you are great scholarly person, even get the title of Saraswati. You have already written even Surya Siddhanta. You are such a great scholarly personality. I'm just an illiterate. I'm not qualified. Then he rejects him. Then he comes back again to Bhakti Vinod Thakur and tells Bhakti Vinod Thakur, who is his father, tells Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, go back again. Then second time he goes, again he begs for initiation. Then Gaura Kishodas Babaji Maharaj again rejects, mentioning his lack of qualification, quote unquote. Then he comes back to Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Third time Bhakti Vinod Thakur says, go back again. But this time, if you don't take shelter, if he rejects you, never come back home. Leave. So, there is a phrase called burning the boats. It's like that. He burned the boat. So he has to go forward only. He can't actually retreat back. So then he goes. Third time he goes. So then Gaura Kishodas Babaji Maharaj, again he rejects him. At that time Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur tells him, you are my Lord and Master, eternal Lord and Master. Either you give me shelter. If you don't give me shelter, there is no point in me in this body. I'm going to quit this body. Saying this way, he started to run towards Ganga. So then Gaura Kishodas Babaji Maharaj, he was very pleased with his surrender, and then he initiates him straight away. So this is his position. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is the only disciple of Gaura Kishodas Babaji Maharaj. It's mentioned because he was so disgusted with people coming to him again and again asking for material blessings. He would sit in filthy places where people would pass urine and stool. So nobody would want to go there. He would sit there and chant. So nobody would come and disturb him like that. So then Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur fights, and then there is a pastime there also. Then he challenges among the people who wanted to claim ownership of transcendental body of Gaura Kishodas Babaji Maharaj, that if any of you haven't had sex in the last 3 months, step forward, you can take, then nobody come forward. Then he goes, introduces, actually it goes the other way around. Initially he says in last 24 hours, and then last 3 days, okay, at least in last 1 week, okay, last 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, still nobody dares. Which means none of them were following even the principles properly. So then he takes the body, transcendental body of Gaura Kishodas Babaji Maharaj, constructs, and then later when Mother Ganga changes her course, at that time she comes and she immerses, or fearing that immersion because she was going to inundate the whole area, because she changes course. She's a personality. So she changes course completely. So at that time, he had actually dug that whole area and carried the samadhi of his spiritual master in a boat, came to the other side, where you see his samadhi now. If you go to, and that's the place where you will see the samadhi of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur also, in Gaudiya Math. So that was the second place where, so he served his spiritual master in every sense, during his manifest Leela and even during his aprakat Leela. All the time. So this is the position, and so Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur exemplified Guru Bhakti, how one is supposed to be a total sold out servant of Guru. So here, Madhavendra Puri is in the same mood. In that mood, he is exhibiting extreme humility, but then his impudent disciple, Ramachandra Puri, he dared to criticize him, even advise him. Don't show your face to me. Go anywhere else you like. If I die seeing your face, I shall not achieve the destination of my life. So Madhavendra Puri, before leaving his body, he is literally cursing him. He is abandoning him. I'm dying without achieving the shelter of Krishna, and therefore I'm greatly unhappy. Prabhupada says, the mission of Goswamis will always be unfulfilled. And Prabhupada clarifies, the Goswamis always were searching for Krishna, searching for Srimati Radharani. Hey Raje, Vrajadevike, Chalalite, oh Lalita, oh Vishaka, oh Srimati Radharani, where are you? Where are you? They never said, Prabhupada is saying in one place, they never said, oh, today I have achieved Krishna and Radha. Like that. They are always in mood of separation. So same way here, you can see Madhavendra Puri also saying, I'm dying without achieving the shelter of Krishna. In the same mood of separation he is saying. So we should not mistake it as how Ramachandra Puri did. And therefore, I am greatly unhappy. Now this condemned foolish rascal has come to instruct me about Brahman. Ramachandra Puri was thus denounced by Madhavendra Puri. Due to his offense, gradually material desire appeared within him. Now this is a big lesson for us. When we do Vaishnava Parad, Ayu Shriyam Yasho Dharmam Lokan Ashisha Evacha Hanti Shreyamsi Sarvani Pumso Mahad Atikramaha. It's given in Bhagavatam. So one's lifetime, one's beauty, fame, religiosity, elevation to higher planets, blessings, everything goes away. If 6 things are mentioned, these will run away from a person who has committed Vaishnava Parad. Pumso Mahadatikramaha, one who has committed offense at the lotus feet of great souls. So if somebody commits aparad against great souls, we may think, in Puranic stories we'll come across, because somebody cursed someone, the person actually glides down to hell or glides down to human form of life. Indra in one instance, he becomes a pig, it's given. So we think like that. But actually here if you see, Ramachandra Puri, due to his offense, gradually material desire appeared within him. So having material desire appearing within one's heart is a curse. Because here it's given that as the result of his aparad, not just ordinary aparad. Which means whenever we get material desire in our heart, we should ask ourselves, so who did I offend today? So we have to be very, very careful that we don't. Sometimes material desires may be coming from our previous life also. But sometimes our Krishna consciousness will actually go nicely, smoothly. Suddenly, you may sense some material desire coming. So we can take a lesson from Ramachandra Puri's case, where the material desire is sprouting within his heart due to his offense to his spiritual master. So we have to be very, very careful. One who is attached to dry speculative knowledge has no relationship with Krishna. His occupation is criticizing Vaishnavas. Thus, he is situated in criticism. Situated in criticism. You know, just like somebody may be situated in Krishna consciousness, his whole mood is to simply criticize the devotees. Shushka Brahma Jnani Nahi Krishnera Sambandha Sarva Loka Ninda Kare Nindate Nirbandha. They are fixed. Darshan will be at 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock. So curtain will open, Arati. You can sit here. You can take. So Ishwara Puri, one who is attached to dry speculative knowledge, has no relationship with Krishna. His occupation is criticizing Vaishnavas. So that's the occupation. Ishwara Puri, the spiritual master of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, performed service to Madhavendra Puri, cleaning up his stool and urine with his own hand. Ishwara Puri was always chanting the holy name and pastimes of Lord Krishna for Madhavendra Puri to hear. In this way, he helped Madhavendra Puri remember the holy name and pastimes of Lord Krishna at the time of death. Pleased with Ishwara Puri, Madhavendra Puri embraced him and gave him the benediction that he would be a great devotee and lover of Krishna. So this is the greatest boon. Greatest boon is to become pure devotee of the Supreme Lord. And greatest curse is to deal with material desires. So you see 2 examples here, extremely contradicting examples of how one is supposed to be a disciple and how one is not supposed to be a disciple. Or how as a disciple one is not supposed to act. So Ishwara Puri he exemplified, and because of that he gives the boon. Will that boon come to pass? Absolutely. He got association of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He got association of Jagannath Mishra. Sachimata. He became the spiritual master of Supreme Lord himself. That's Ishwara Puri's position. So we have to understand, simply pleasing the devotees will give us all perfection. But for some reason, if we end up committing aparad, and sometimes committing aparad, one may do even without one's knowledge. There's one pastime that's given of Rupa Goswami. Once Rupa Goswami, he was chanting Hare Krishna, and in his form as Rupa Manjari, he was meditating on Golok Vrindavan. So in Golok Vrindavan, Krishna and Srimati Radharani and all the gopis, they are playing water sports. Have you played this game? You splash water at your friend and the friend will actually splash. So there are so many gopis and everyone was splashing at Krishna. And then Krishna at one point, he started to splash. He started to splash with such force, everyone was blinded. How much ever they try, they just couldn't come out of that. Krishna was like using all his might to completely drench all the gopis, splashing the water. So Rupa Goswami as Rupa Manjari, he is witnessing this particular Leela. And when he is seeing the plight of all the gopis and Srimati Radharani, he is laughing. Like little girl looking at that and laughing. So when he is laughing as Rupa Goswami, in his body as a Goswami, in material world also, he started to laugh. As he is chanting, he started to laugh with that Leela Smarana. At that time, there was a lame Vaishnava who is a Brajabasi who happened to just go past him. He couldn't walk properly. So when Rupa Goswami was laughing, meditating on the Leela, this Vaishnava misunderstood that Rupa Goswami is laughing at the way he walks. And then he got upset and he just walked away. Rupa Goswami's meditation suddenly broke as soon as this Vaishnava felt like that. And again he is trying to go back, he couldn't regain his Leela Smarana. Then feeling disturbed, he goes to his elder brother, Sanatana Goswami. And Sanatana Goswami tells him immediately that if your Leela Smarana is actually broken, if your consciousness is broken, that means you must have offended someone. Did you offend someone? He says like, no, I didn't. Then he said, okay, if we find who you offended, even unknowingly, then it will be easier to fix the problem. At least we can go, approach the Vaishnava and seek their forgiveness. Ask them to forgive you. So then Rupa Goswami asked him, how will I know? I don't even know who I offended. Then Sanatana Goswami said, finding that is very easy. You organize a big feast and you invite every Brajabasi in Vrindavan. Who doesn't come, that's the person who you offended. So then he organizes a big massive feast, and as rightly predicted by Sanatana Goswami, this particular Vaishnava who was lame, who couldn't walk properly, he didn't show up. Then immediately Rupa Goswami runs to him and then asks for forgiveness. And then the Vaishnava who was lame, he told him, you laughed at me that day, that's why I was very upset. Then Rupa Goswami explains his situation, that he was not laughing at him, he was laughing at the Leela that was happening. So this is the effect of aparad, even if somebody has done it unknowingly. Here intention itself is not to commit offense to anyone. How much more careful we should be. So we have to be very, very careful. Otherwise, we will make progress, but we can't realize the benefit of progress. Kadamkana Maharaj says in one class, it's like you earn money, you deposit in a bank, but your bank account is frozen. It will take all the money that gets credited, but you cannot withdraw anything. So, the effect of Vaishnava aparad is like that. Now one may think, I'll commit aparad, but I'll still chant Hare Krishna. Yes, chanting Hare Krishna, it will still credit, but you can't use it, which means progress will be stunted completely. So the main purpose, the only purpose why we are practicing Krishna consciousness is to cultivate Krishna Prema. And the process to cultivate Krishna Prema is by doing devotional service. Where is the question of proving I'm greater than you? Where is the question of getting distracted from that and like trying to put some other devotee down? Definitely none of that has got any place in our life. It's a waste of time. That's why it's called anartha. Artha means that which has value. Anartha means that which has no value. Okay, so that fault-finding tendency, that criticizing tendency, it's an anartha. Okay, so pleased with Ishwara Puri, Madhavendra Puri embraced him and gave him the benediction that he would be a great devotee and lover of Krishna. Thus, Ishwara Puri became like an ocean of ecstatic love for Krishna, whereas Ramachandra Puri became a dry speculator and a critic of everyone else. Ishwara Puri received the blessing of Madhavendra Puri, whereas Ramachandra Puri received a rebuke from him. Therefore, these two persons, Ishwara Puri and Ramachandra Puri, are examples of the objects of a great personality's benediction and punishment. Madhavendra Puri instructed the entire world by presenting these two examples. Amazing. Simultaneously, he is demonstrating. Madhavendra Puri is teaching the whole world how you are supposed to act and how you are not supposed to act. By these two powerful examples, Ishwara Puri and Ramachandra Puri. His Divine Grace Madhavendra Puri, the spiritual master of the entire world, thus distributed ecstatic love for Krishna while passing away from the material world. He chanted the following verse: Aidina dayadranate madhurnatra kadavalokyase hridayam tvadaloka kataram daita brahmayati kim karomyaham. O my Lord, O most merciful Master, O Master of Mathura, when shall I see you again? Because of my not seeing you, my agitated heart has become unsteady. O most beloved one, what shall I do now? So this is exactly the heart, the song of the heart of Srimati Radharani. Madhavendra Puri is also singing. In this verse, Madhavendra Puri teaches how to achieve ecstatic love for Krishna. By feeling separation from Krishna, one becomes spiritually situated. Madhavendra Puri sowed the seed of ecstatic love for Krishna within this material world and then departed. That seed later became a great tree in the form of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Prithivite ropana kari gela preman kura say preman kurera vriksha Caitanya Thakura. I have incidentally described the passing away of Madhavendra Puri. Anyone who hears this must be considered very fortunate. Haribol! Thus, Ramachandra Puri stayed at Jagannath Puri. As is customary for those in the renounced order, he would sometimes stay someplace and then go away. There was no certainty of where Ramachandra Puri would take his meal, for he would do so even uninvited. Nobody knows when will this serial offender come. He would just come, commit aparadh, criticize devotees, and he would go. And we saw in the last week's class when we were reading, he would make devotees feel obliged to eat more. So he would serve them, no, you have to eat. And because he is a sannyasi, everyone would eat. Because he is asking. So after serving devotees, overfeeding them, then he will criticize them for overeating. Which means he is not just finding fault, he is creating a fault, forcing people to do the fault, and then he will criticize. There was no certainty of where Ramachandra Puri would take his meal, for he would do so even uninvited. Nevertheless, he was very particular about keeping account of how others were taking their meals. He would go and take anywhere, but he would keep an account of how much everyone is taking. To invite Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would cost 320 kaudis, small conch shells. That's the unit of currency. This would provide lunch for 3 people, including Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and sometimes Kashishwara and Govinda. Once one disciple is asking Prabhupada, in many of the purports if you see, especially Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's tour to South India, for every single place Prabhupada would say what railway station you have to get down, what train you have to catch, what railway station you have to get down, and what's the direction. It will be like a parikrama guide. From the station you come out, turn left, go for a kilometer and then turn right. There you will see a temple. There the temple is currently run by Prabhupada. Will give the Goswami's name also. You can go meet him. And their descendants are still running the temple. One disciple was asking Prabhupada, you put so much details in it. In the purport in Caitanya Caritamrta, Prabhupada said, yes, I deliberately put it. So people understand this is not a myth. This is real. This place is real. The people are real. They are still there. Same line of descendants, they are still there. If they want to go and check, they can go and check. So Prabhupada is saying. So here you can see even Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami also giving so much minute details. Like we saw, like the prasad which Raghava Pandit would actually take for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The detail that's given. Likewise here it's given. To invite Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would cost 320 kaudis. Which means to have a lunch program with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, This is the cost. This would provide lunch for 3 people, including Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and sometimes Kashishwara and Govinda. Kashishwara is his bodyguard. And then Govinda, who is his personal servant. Every day the Lord would take his meal at a different place, and if someone was prepared to pay for a meal, the price was fixed at only 4 panas. Ramachandra Puri concerned himself with gathering all sorts of information about how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was situated, including his regulative principles, his lunch, his sleep and his movements. For what? For criticizing him. Because Ramachandra Puri was interested only in finding faults, he could not understand the transcendental qualities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His only concern was finding faults, but still he could not find any. Now, you look at the spotless lifestyle of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sannyasa Shiromani. Even though he was struggling so hard, going through all the information, still he could not find even one single fault. So that should tell us the most exalted character, most exalted personality of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So there cannot be any more worse offender than Ramachandra Puri. But despite his constant endeavor, still he couldn't find even one single fault. How great Chaitanya Mahaprabhu must be. At last he found a fault. How can a person in the renounced order eat so many sweetmeats? He said, if one eats sweets, controlling the senses is very difficult. In this way, Ramachandra Puri blasphemed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu before everyone, but nevertheless, he would regularly come to see the Lord every day. He is coming regularly, very interested to see the Lord every day. For what? Criticizing. When they met, the Lord would offer him respectful obeisances, considering him a god brother of his spiritual master. Now you look at the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is still treating him on par with the spiritual master, because Ramachandra Puri is god brother of Ishwara Puri and Ishwara Puri is spiritual master of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Ramachandra Puri's business, however, was to search for faults in the Lord. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knew that Ramachandra Puri was criticizing him before everyone. If you look at atheists, they need to be alive, they need food, they need water, they need shelter, they need everything. All facilities provided by who? Bhoktaram Yagatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, Krishna. And then Krishna is giving them everything. Here, water, take. Here is some food. Please take care of your body. I'll give you knowledge also how to maintain your body, everything. Ready? All right, start blasphemy. And Krishna is hearing the blasphemy, correct? But they won't understand the selfless love of Krishna. They'll still criticize Krishna. You are showing more love to people who love you. But if you think about even that whole question about Krishna being partial to his devotees, isn't that how any relationship works even in material world? You go to a home where you are invited. You don't go to a home where you are not invited. So Krishna is going and reciprocating with someone who is chanting his name, chanting his glories. But atheists, they find fault even for that. I remember seeing one meme that got forwarded. It said, never speak to pessimists. They have problem for every solution, like that. So you should never talk to people who are negative, because you will think, okay, there is a solution I can find for this situation. Whenever you talk about any solution, they will always find a problem inside their solution, because they are very, very negative. That way, atheists also, Krishna is giving so much, rather than appreciating what Krishna is giving, they are again too busy in using all the resources which Krishna gives to prove that Krishna doesn't exist. That's what atheist means. So here, Ramachandra Puri is also doing the same. One day, Ramachandra Puri came in the morning to the abode of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Seeing many ants, he said something to criticize the Lord. Last night there was sugar candy here. He simply saw some ants. Look at his conclusion. Last night there was sugar candy here, therefore ants were wandering about. Alas, this renounced sannyasi is attached to such sense gratification. After speaking in this way, he got up and left. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had heard rumors about Ramachandra Puri's blasphemy. Now he directly heard his fanciful accusations. Ants generally crawl about here and there, everywhere, but Ramachandra Puri, imagining false, criticized Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by alleging that there has been sweetmeats in this room. After hearing this criticism, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was doubtful and apprehensive. Therefore, he called Govinda and instructed him as follows. Ajihaite Bhiksha Amara Eita Niyama Pinda Bogera Eka Chauti Pancha Gandhera Vyanjana. From today on, it will be a rule that I shall accept only 1/4 of a pot of Lord Jagannath's prasadam. And 5 gandas worth of vegetables. Lord Jagannath's pot of Mahaprasad will be that much. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going to take only 1/4. Even this is not enough. 1/4 of that is like very small amount. Plus 5 gandas worth of vegetables. If you bring me more than this, you will not see me here anymore. So this is what he is telling to Govinda very strictly. Only bring me this much. If you are going to serve me anything more than this, I will leave from here. Govinda relayed this message to all the devotees. When they heard it, they felt as if their heads had been struck by thunderbolts. All the devotees condemned Ramachandra Puri, saying, this sinful man has come here and taken our lives. That day, a Brahmana extended an invitation to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Govinda accepted only 5 gandas worth of vegetable and 1/4 of a pot of rice, the Brahmana, in great despair, struck his head with his hand and cried, alas, alas. Because devotees, they don't want to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or Supreme Lord doing austerity. Devotees are experts in making a lot of tasteful preparations for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. Someone was asking, does Radha Gopinath follow Ekadashi? Why should they follow? If you eat grain on Ekadashi, you will get sin. Shuddham apapa viddham. Supreme Lord, there is no question of that. Even if there is, actually there is no question of that. Krishna doesn't have to do any austerity. So Krishna, he takes even double the quantity on that day. Devotees make even more special preparations on Ekadashi. So for Krishna, it's enjoyment and more enjoyment. That's all. So Krishna doesn't follow any austerity. Devotees don't want to see Krishna following any austerity. That's why if you see even in Navadvipa, they won't usually worship the form, sannyasi form of the Lord. They'll worship only Nimai Pandit. Long curly hair, lotus petaled eyes, one who's a tasteful dresser, it's given Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One who's flanked, who would go grace the land of Navadvipa, walking on it, going to different islands, flanked by his associates every day. So this is the vision of Navadvipasis, and this is all they want to meditate on. They never like to see Krishna, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu doing any austerity. And we saw when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was actually going to go for South Indian tour. At that time, the question came about who should Chaitanya Mahaprabhu take with him. Initially, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was rejecting. I don't want to take anyone. I'm a sannyasi. My dharma is I'm supposed to be dependent on Krishna and I'll go. So Shastras give there are many dharmas for everyone, all 4 varnas, 4 ashramas, but there are more defining dharmas for each one of the varna and ashram also. For example, for brahmacharis, it's given swadhyay. They are supposed to study Shastras and teach Shastras. This is their primary duty. Likewise, for grahasthas, the most defining dharma is they are supposed to serve sannyasis, brahmacharis, everyone. Whoever who is who have surrendered to the Supreme Lord. That is because they are given the resources to take care, so they are supposed to take care of the whole society, including vanaprasthas also, everyone. So that's like a defining dharma. Like that, it's given the most defining dharma for sannyasis is to have utmost faith, complete faith on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. And Prabhupada says, even if they are in the midst of the jungle, at the dead of the night, still they should be convinced, Krishna will protect me. This is the dharma of sannyasis, most defining dharma of sannyasis. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu citing that says, I don't want to go with anyone else. But then again, associates, they still insist, request, beg, plead Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to simply take one servant who can carry his water pot, his clothes, just one pair of clothes, and then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is free to just chant and dance. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, at that time you will see him mildly chastising each one of them. Actually he is glorifying. He says, this Jagadananda, whenever he sees me doing any austerity, he goes to the room and he sits and cries for days together without even taking water and food. Like that, how can I take him as a servant? Like that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually mildly chastises Jagadananda that he is not fit to be a servant. But actually Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is glorifying his love. Like that you will see. So here also, the Brahmana, being a pure devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he wanted to serve, but then his opportunity is taken away in the form of this reduced menu quantity of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he is striking his head with his hand and crying, alas, alas. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ate only half of the rice and vegetables, and whatever remained were taken by Govinda. Already it was 1/4. In that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is taking, so in this pot Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is taking only 1/8. So he took half of that little quantity and the remaining half he is leaving for Govinda. Thus both Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Govinda ate only half the food they needed. Because of this, all the other devotees gave up eating. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ordered Govinda and Kashishwara, you may both take alms elsewhere to fill your bellies. In this way, some days passed in great unhappiness. Hearing of all this, Ramachandra Puri went to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered his obeisances to Ramachandra Puri, worshipping his feet. Then Ramachandra Puri smiled and spoke to the Lord. Ramachandra Puri advised, it is not the business of a sannyasi to gratify his senses. He should fill his belly some way or other. I have heard that you have cut your eating in half. Indeed, I see that you are skinny. Such dry renunciation is also not the religion of a sannyasi. Now we found another way to criticize. A sannyasi eats as much as necessary to maintain his body, but he does not enjoy satisfying his senses materially. Thus a sannyasi becomes perfect in his spiritual advancement and knowledge. Lord Krishna said, my dear Arjuna, one cannot perform mystic yoga if he eats more than necessary or needlessly fasts. Both are condemned. Eating more than necessary or needlessly fasting. Sleeps and dreams too much or does not sleep enough. Too much sleeping. When you have a sleep in which you see a lot of dreams, that's not a deep sleep. There's Jagrati, Swapna, Susupti. Susupti is deep sleep. Swapna means a sleep that is filled with the dreams is not considered good rest. Taking good rest for the body. And dreams too much or does not sleep enough. One should not eat and enjoy senses as much as necessary. One should properly endeavor to execute his duties and one should regulate his sleep and wakefulness. Thus, one can become freed from material pains by executing mystic yoga. This is the famous verse, Yukta hara viharasya, yukta testasya karmashu, yukta swapnava bodhasya, yoga bhavati dukkaha. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then humbly submitted, I am just like an ignorant boy and I am like your disciple. It is my great fortune that you are instructing me. So he is thanking Ramachandra Puri. Hearing this, Ramachandra Puri got up and left. He also heard from various sources that all the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were eating half as much as usual. The next day, Paramananda Puri and other devotees approached Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with great humility and submission. We'll stop here and continue on Monday. Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan ki jai. Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki jai. Shri Gauranitai ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Caitanya Caritamrta ki jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Samaveta Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Radha Gopinath's devotees ki jai. Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Devotees in Mayapur TV, YouTube and Facebook ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai.